Hey everybody, welcome to tutorial 2.5. You can see that I'm recording against a natural background outside my window today instead of the white wall, and that's because this is a little bit of a different flavor of tutorial. It's not about computers or science. We're not even going to mention racket. It's more about university, what expectations you can have and what expectations we have of you as a student. Now, some of the stuff you may have already heard, you may have even heard all of it, but it's very important that you understand some of the stuff in this tutorial. So this was my original table of contents for this tutorial. What is a university? Why student? Why are they here? How can they stay sane? How does a math or CS student differ from your garden variety student? And what do they do if they need help? But I have since revised it to what do they do if they need help first? Because this is really the most important thing. And there were more links on this page, but really I've cut it down to just a single link. If you follow this link, it'll bring you to Campus Wellness. These are people who have services and training to help you if you're experiencing any kind of emotional difficulty, any kind of negative space, any kind of negative thoughts are in your head. These people are trained to talk to you about them. They'll be happy to talk to you in this, much in the same way that Rivers and I will be happy to talk to you about CS. What's not only cool about them is not only can they help you, but also a really common situation is that you see a friend who needs help and they will give you guidance on how to help your friends who are maybe not in the most positive space. And university can be a really hard thing. It's not made any easier online. It can be very isolating at times, and that can do really bad things to people's mental health. There's a lot of people who are scared for themselves, scared for others, and a lot of anxiety flying around this year. So if you're feeling unwell for mental reasons, even if it's not related to the university, visit Campus Wellness. They'll be able to help you out. The next thing is, what is a university student? And I've put, that is for you to decide, but there are some guidelines that we can talk about in this tutorial. And it's a shame that we can't be here to talk face to face like we would in a normal term, but this will have to do for our purposes. So when you come to university, it's a really big choice. You are investing a lot of time, probably 4 years, 4.5 years if you're in co-op, and a lot of money, and especially a lot of money if you're an international student. But it's definitely worth it because well, it's not definitely worth it, I can't say that, but you will learn some things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. For example, if you just emailed all the professors and said, what textbooks do you use? And you read all the textbooks and got all the knowledge, there's still some things that you wouldn't have learned because you didn't go to university. And that's kind of like how in our CS course, our learning outcomes are functional programming, some basic racket, some basic data structures and algorithms. For university, your learning outcomes are time management, how to take a test, how to manage a stressful situation, and how to write a good assignment, a good report, how to talk to professors, and you'll make a lot of connections. So at university, you want to make sure that you're focusing on those things and not just about getting grades. The next big thing I have is, why are they here? They being university students, which is you, which is me, which is everyone here. And sometime in the term, maybe first year, maybe fourth year, you'll find yourself asking, why am I here? And a lot of people come here because they need a degree to get a job that pays well. Their parents want them to get a degree. They feel like getting a degree will help them fit in with their friends. But the real reason you should be at university is because you're studying something that you enjoy studying. You're doing something you enjoy doing. If you have any doubts about your program, just try to take some courses that you think would interest you and really try to find a program for you that lies at your interests. Don't think about money-making outcomes or career outcomes or job outcomes or family outcomes. Just try to study something that you enjoy studying. And it takes a lot of grit to get through university. You will fail a lot, and that will be a super important part of your growing experience. So in order to avoid getting burnt out, you need to really care about what you're studying, because if the only reason you're here is to get good grades or to get a good job, that might not be enough to carry you through your 4 years at university. How do they stay sane? So these are really important things. that when you were in a lower pressure situation, like at high school or whatnot, whatever you were doing before here, you need to eat healthy food in healthy quantities. Make sure that you get something to eat every day. Make sure that it is nutritious. Go outside at least once a day. Try to get some exercise as much as you can, and not the exercises that are presented at the end of tutorials. Run, walk, swim, bike, whatever you can do. Talk to another person. You should try to talk to someone every day. It's a little bit harder now that we're all isolated, but ideally you have at least one person that you can talk to. Avoid substances, just for a lot of reasons. The next thing is that you should be, a little few tips for success in this course is take notes, review them regularly. If you don't review your notes, the value of taking them decreases. At the end of this tutorial, I'm going to point you towards a series of lectures. They're completely optional. They will probably have already been advertised to you, actually, but they are well worth the watch. And they talk about some particular note-taking strategies. Be careful about comparing yourself to others. This is something that can make a lot of students feel bad, especially in first year. In first year, a lot of people are really eager to make friends. They're really anxious to make friends. So they will present themselves in their best light, which is fine. But if you see all of your friends talking about how they did so well in courses and how they've had internships in high school and how they've done, they have a packed resume, they've written a million lines of Python, you don't need to compare yourself to them. Other people doing well is great, and you should take them as inspiration rather than competition. Everyone has insecurities. I do, you do, we all do. And if you only compare yourself to the people that are at the very top, or at least appear at the very top, or would like to make themselves seem at the very top, you will probably not have a very fun university experience. Build healthy study habits. And this is really important. You want to eliminate all distractions. So turn off your phone notifications, turn off your computer notifications, turn off your Piazza Digest. Eliminate distractions, close the door. You want to be focused when you're studying, because an hour of focused study is probably worth 4 hours of unfocused study, like study where you have, a YouTube video open in the background where you can hear someone doing construction outside and it's really distracting to you, or if you have notifications coming in and you read them every 5 minutes. Another healthy study habit that you want to build is building in breaks to your schedule, because after about an hour of focused work, your productivity will probably start to decline, and you want to, get a glass of water, stand outside, step outside for a minute, and just kind of come back to focus so that your next hour of work can be just as productive. If you work 4 hours in a row, your productivity will really dip at the end and you won't be very happy. So not only will you have wasted time, but also you won't feel motivated to go study the next time. Don't cheat. It insults your instructors. It insults your own intelligence. You can land in a whole bunch of academic troubles that you would much rather not have to endure. Don't cheat. In first year, there might be an expectation that you should be able to do better than you are, or maybe you want to save some time so that you can do something really important in your life. But trust me, if you have something important to do in your life, do it. Email your professors. Hopefully they'll be understanding. I already talked about this in healthy study habits. Ask questions. It's really hard in the online format because you used to be able to raise your hand in lecture and ask questions. Could you imagine that? And also knock on your instructor's office door and annoy them with all of your questions. I mean, not annoy them, but interrupt their busy work for work that they will enjoy. The other thing is never take yourself too seriously. And what I mean by that is don't have an expectation that you will do everything perfectly the first time. Don't feel like this is the most important thing in your life. There's more important things to life than school. And your school should not be the only thing that defines you. You should be able to play sports and do art and write poetry, whatever you want to do. So don't take your schooling too seriously. The next thing is a few things that are specific to math and computer science students. Debug. And there is a math analogy of this where you try to poke holes in your proof. So debugging is really important because you might want to write really good programs top to bottom so that you can complete your future assignments really fast. And the way to get good at this is not to practice writing programs perfectly the first time, but to practice debugging and troubleshooting really fast. So debugging is one of the most valuable experiences that you get while doing your assignments. And it's super important that you take the time to try to understand what the Racket interpreter is telling you the error is, or understand what test cases that you're using on your own machine, what values those should be outputting. So thoroughly debug, thoroughly comment. Rivers is going to talk about formatting and programming a little bit after this. Carefully read the assumptions. This is another tip for math and CS students because questions are often worded in a way that gives you as little information as you need, as few assumptions as possible to solve the problem. So for example, on A3D, one assumption was that you have to use a number of make nodes equal to the height or fewer. That means that in the worst case scenario, you'll have to use the number of make node calls equal to the height of the result. So it's actually a subtle hint that you can do it, you can accomplish this, you can solve the problem in a way that uses the number of make node calls up to the height of the result. So the assumptions are not just there to hinder you, but also to help guide you. They will give you a set of landmarks to follow when you're doing your assignment. The next thing is simulate test conditions. And I'm not talking about just when you do the sample midterm to, not be drinking tea or not be listening to music and have your window shut and do it all in one sitting and time yourself. That's a really good practice. But I'm also talking about during assignments. When you begin an assignment, if you read the first few problems and have to reach for your notes, that's how you know that your initial note-taking and review of your lecture notes was unsuccessful. It means that you haven't fully internalized the material, and you shouldn't have an expectation that it's fully internalized, fully known after you just take notes and then review them. But you want to be able to do your assignments without looking at your lecture notes. And the reason for this is because in your exams and your midterms, which are worth much more than assignments, you won't have access to your lecture notes. Also, if you have your lecture notes available while you're doing your assignments, that means that you haven't memorized the material. And to move on to the next course, you don't want to have to go back to your lecture notes constantly for previous courses. You want to have this stuff memorized so that you can actually move on properly. The last thing is, if you are looking to get even further, you can follow this link. It will take you to the Learning How to Learn seminar series by Dan Walchuk, who's a professor here at UW. He teaches a lot of linear algebra courses and stuff like that. He's really good. He's really enthusiastic. And you may open this link and find out that the whole series is 6 hours long. But if you watch those 6 hours, maybe try watching 2 a week for the next 3 weeks. You'll be done before October is out. It will save you more than 6 hours of work probably every week going forward after you watch these lectures. They're really worth the watch. If you're really strapped on time, watch lectures 4 and 6. Those are probably the most important ones. Pursuing your interest. This is another thing that you can do if you want to get even further, if you want to go to the next level. And by pursuing your interests, I mean that instead of spending your free time making a side project so that you could get, so that you want to have something to put on your resume for co-op, making a side project that you enjoy and doing a research about something that you enjoy, even though it might not look as good on your resume, it'll look better on a job application for the job you want that exercises that thing that you enjoy. So that's kind of my last bit of university knowledge. You're being thrown into a situation that puts a lot of responsibility on you as a student. Everyone who I've talked to has been a pleasure to meet, and I hope that I can meet even more of you before the term is out. Hopefully I can chat at least once with every single student in CS 145. I know that's kind of ambitious, but it would really make my term if I got to speak to all of you. So even if you just want to talk about, this whatever new theory you have about functional programming, something, even if you don't need help, just try to come and talk to some people, and you never know what will happen. Maybe it'll be something wonderful. Thanks for watching. I'm going to pass it over to Rivers now, who's going to talk about formatting in your programming.